Well, you guys know the drill. I'll say it one more time. If you're watching online right now, go ahead and hit that share button. If you're here in the room and you have a phone handy, just go ahead and real quick, you can get on social media and hit that share button and just continue to get these messages out in front of our friends and family. And I just want to say this real quick. Again, if you've been around FCC for the last few years, you know that this is always like a fun Sunday for us. We try to just have a good time, right? And one of the things that we have traditionally done, and it always just kind of gets bigger and bigger, is we do like a preach-off. And this year we decided, let's team together, right? And so that's what this is all about. Jimmy and I are actually going to tag team this here this morning, and I'm excited to share what we believe is just a big vision and really a revision cast to you all, our church. And so let me pray real quick and we're going to get going. God, we love you. We thank you for today. God, we just invite you into this time. We know that this has been just such a wild season that we're all a part of. It almost just is getting old to even say that. But God, it's true. And so we just invite you into this moment and into this next season that we as a church are walking out. God, speak through me, speak through Jimmy. Let these be your words. It's in Jesus' name we pray. And everybody online and in the room said, amen, amen. Well, I want to start here. I want to start in Malachi chapter 3. God is speaking here through the prophet Malachi. And it's just a really simple verse, but here's what it is. He says this. He says, I, the Lord, do not change. So you, the descendants of Jacob, are not destroyed. Right, and I read that this week, and I was sort of meditating on that this week, and I thought about this. I thought about how maybe, for me, one of the most comforting attributes of God is the fact that he doesn't change. And even in this verse, I think it's interesting. He talks about how he doesn't change, and then he says, oh, and then you, my people, because of that, you're not destroyed. Meaning this, you can have hope. There's a future. You're going to be okay. And again, I started thinking about how in our lives, so many of us, this is just, it is what it is, right? You can have relationships that are good one minute, and then they sort of can not be so good the next minute. Your finances can be great, and then not so great. Your health can be fine, and then all of a sudden, you're in a hospital waiting room, and you're a little bit stressed out. And this is just life. Life is change. Life is all over the place. But God doesn't change. But God is constant. And I started thinking about this year that we've walked through together and how maybe that's the most reassuring thing, that God, even in the midst of a year where everything seemed like it was changing constantly, God is there, not changing, faithful. Now, I think some of the stuff that we experienced in 2020, some of the change might have been good. Some of it, I wouldn't even mind if it stuck around for a little bit. I think the pace of our lives had gotten so crazy, a lot of us. Would you admit that? You were running from this practice to this thing with your kids to this PTA meter or whatever. And it was just all this stuff we were doing. And then we kind of had to shut down and slow down. And maybe that would be change that I wouldn't mind if it stuck around. You actually sat down and had dinner with your family every now and then. Or here's another thing that I saw in 2020, I think is good change, right? And it was birthed out of tragedy. But the conversation about racial reconciliation, understanding, and equity, and just all of that has been a good conversation. And I think a lot of us, we just saw that move forward in 2020. And even for us as a church, we started to say, okay, what does that look like for us? How are we walking that out? How are we going to continue to move the ball down the field? That's change that I don't want to go away. But then there's stuff like the fact that we have to have a cap in the room for church. The fact that, the whole mask situation. I'm not an anti-mask person, but I wouldn't mind not having to wear a mask anymore. Right? I get tired of all the stickers that we have to stand on and just all of that. I think there's some things that a lot of us will be okay when it kind of changes back, hopefully. See, back in September of 2019, we walked into a significant season in the life of our church. It was in September of 2019, seems like a lifetime ago, that we sort of cast this grand vision that we were going to be a church that went all for the one. You remember that? If you were around then, you probably remember that because we had t-shirts and sweatshirts and wristbands, and we were like, we put it out there. We have a wall that we built out in our lobby that every person that gets baptized, we put in a light bulb to represent them coming to know Jesus. And for us as a church, here's what we said. We sort of looked at the previous 5 years and we said, how amazing. God grew our church and we saw tons of people come to know Jesus, like 600 people over the course of 2014 to 2019 came to know Jesus and were obedient in baptism. And here's what we said. We said for the next 5 years, we want to see what it would look like if we doubled that. If 1,201 people came to know Jesus. Why 1,201? Because, well, the one is your one. Who are you loving? Who are you reaching out to? Who are you praying for? Who are you having coffee with? Who are you sharing your faith with? And so I'm going to be honest, if you want like a little glimpse behind the curtain really quick, I was really nervous to put that vision in front of our church because I was like, that's a big deal to say we want to like double the amount of people that came to know Jesus over the course of those 5 years. We want to like double it over the course of the next 5 years. But here's what happened when we put that vision in front of our church. Y'all went nuts. I actually went back and I looked. I did this week. I looked, okay, from September 8th, 2019, when we put that vision in front of our church, that we were going to be a church that did whatever it took short of sin to win as many people to Jesus as possible. And the primary way that we would do that is through relationship, through just compelling our people to go and love the people around them and to share Jesus with the people around them. When we put that vision in front of you guys, our church, on September 8th, 2019, through March 8th, which was the last Sunday we met sort of regular before COVID turned the world upside down and, again, changed everything. In those 6 months, we averaged around 3 baptisms per week. Now, here's what that means. That may mean nothing to you, but here's what that means to me. I've been a part of churches where, like, you were lucky to have 3 baptisms in, like, a year, okay? I've been a part of churches where it was like, this is awesome if you had 3 baptisms a month. We were seeing every single week people taking the plunge over there in that baptistry. Every single week, multiple people were coming to know Jesus. And why was that happening? It was happening because you, our church, caught the vision that God was laying on the heart of this community. And you were meeting with your friends, you were talking to your neighbors, you were meeting with your coworkers, and you were telling them about Jesus. And God was doing a crazy, crazy thing. And then change. Then pandemic hit. Then shutdowns happened. And all of a sudden, we've talked about this a little bit before, but all of a sudden it seemed like where there was this laser focus and where so many of us were just emboldened and passionate about this thing that we were being called to, all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, I think I might lose my job. Or hold on a second, now I got to figure out how to do at-home schooling. Or hold on a second, I don't even know how to, I have this person that I'm praying for. I have this person that I love. I have this person I'm trying to share Jesus with, but I don't really know how to do it now because like I can't get coffee with them. Like we can't just hang out on their back porch and chat. And it just got kind of weird, right? And I'll just be really transparent. I think even for us, like as a church leadership, I think we kind of got a little distracted too, because all of a sudden it was like, okay, we just got to figure out how to maneuver through this different landscape now. We got to figure out how to move everything online in an even more intentional way and how to make our live stream even more intentional. We got to figure out how to do groups via Zoom now and how to do that well. We got to figure out how to move student ministry and kids ministry and disability ministry into online platforms and try to, figure out how to do things safe when we meet back in person. And the conversation just got kind of muddied up a little. But here's what I need you to hear me say this morning. And I really need you to hear me say this. Even in the midst of all the crazy, not once Did I feel like, did Jimmy, did our leadership, did our elders, not once did we feel like God was tapping us on the shoulder and saying, hey, you know that whole like 1201 thing you guys were doing? Yeah, just forget that. At no point did we feel like God was saying, hey, just don't worry about that all for the one thing. As a matter of fact, I would actually go so far as to say this. I feel more emboldened and more passionate and more confident about that vision for our church now than I did on September 8th, 2019. And here's why. We talked about some of this last week. Anxiety through the roof. Depression rates through the roof. Suicides on the rise. Marriages are struggling. Divorce rates are up. Isolation's up. Fear, worry, all increasing in our world. And yet, you and I know the answer. You and I know the one person who can remedy those things. You and I know the one person who can provide hope in the midst of all of that. And here's what we have, is we have a whole bunch of friends, a whole bunch of coworkers, a whole bunch of teammates, a whole bunch of neighbors, a whole bunch of people in our lives that are looking for answers. They're looking for ways to remedy their anxiety. They're looking for ways to remedy their depression. They're looking for hope and trying to navigate the struggle in their relationships. They're looking for hope in all these other places. And you and I, as followers of Jesus, you and I know the answer. We just can't be distracted. We just can't be distracted. And so in just a minute, Jimmy's going to get up here and Jimmy's going to share a little bit about like some of the strategy behind how we want to walk this out. But here's what I want to put in front of you right now. You're going to hear us over the course of the year to just continue to walk out this vision, to continue to put this in front of our church. Here's what I want to ask you. I want to ask you to consider, who are you praying for? Who are you loving? Who are you engaging? Who are you texting? Who are you emailing? Who are you providing the hope of Jesus to? Some of us, back in September, we knew who that person was. And then the world turned upside down. I'm going to ask you now to re-up on that vision. We are a church made up primarily of people we do not know yet. Because we are people. We are people who are called to live out a vision that says Jesus is for everybody. And we're going to take that message to everybody. So like I said, Jimmy's going to share a little bit more about that. But first, we got like a little halftime break, okay? So let's do that.
Woo! Rass really brought the heat in that first half.
He just knows how to win.
Before we hand the ball off to McLeod for the second half, let's have some fun. Here's how this works. Take out your phones right now. Eric's gonna ask you a trivia question. You're going to text your name and your answer to the number below. Remember, include your name and your answer to the number below. The winning answer will receive pizza, chicken, and JoJo's on us.
All right, here's the question. You know that Big Game Sunday is the busiest day of the year for pizza places. According to the Stark County Pizza Makers Association, which I didn't know that was a thing, in 2020, what was the most popular pizza order on Big Game Sunday? I'll give you a hint. There are 3 toppings. Send your name and your answer to the number below. What were the 3 most popular pizza toppings ordered in Stark County on Big Game Sunday in 2020? We will announce the winner at the end of service.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Progressive presents At Home with Ryan Rasmussen.
Again, it's been awesome to hang with you guys today. We'll see you next Sunday. All right. I felt good about that. I feel good. All right. What up, boys? Hey, how we doing? Yeah, good job, man. Good job. Good job. I'm heading home. I'm ready to just relax, man. No place like home. Why not? We'll do a little reading here today. Preach a sermon, do a little reading, maybe drift to sleep here. Let's see, where are we gonna start? A little light reading. Forgot to turn the sound system off. That's pretty annoying. All right, here we go. Oh, I left the water on. On it, my phone. Oh, come on. There you are. Oh my gosh. The lights, Ryan. You gotta turn the lights off, bro.
You guys think that's a joke, don't you? Hey, it's really, really good to see you this morning. I wasn't here last week when we reopened, and man, I missed this. I don't know about you, but really excited to get to share a little bit more about our vision with you this morning. Here's the deal. I'm sitting here a minute ago, and I'm listening to Ryan talk about 1201 and kind of take me back about a year and a half, and I start getting hyped all over again because we believed then, and we've believed ever since, and we still believe today. We've said this for years, but it's more true now than it ever has been before, that we just think we're a church that our best years are yet to come, guys. Like, we think that what God has in store for First Christian Church is greater than anything we've seen, anything we've dreamt up, anything we've written down on paper, anything we've said from the stage. We believe that God is orchestrating something that would just blow our minds, and I can't wait to see what it looks like, and we believe it's coming. It's not something in the rear view, it's something that's still out ahead of us. And I wanna share for just a few minutes with you a little bit about one specific part of that, okay? So last week, my wife and I are in Florida on a quick little trip, and we're sitting on the runway, getting ready to take off to come home. And the window shade was down on the window beside us, but I didn't even have to be able to see out the window. I could feel the engines revving up. You ever been on an airplane and felt that? You just feel the engines starting to rev up, and you feel like, the power of the airplane just about to take off down the runway. And I gotta tell you, that is exactly how I felt for the past year, as we've been in the middle of COVID and pivoting in so many ways and rethinking what we do. And so much of what Ryan just shared for the past few minutes and so much of what I'm about to share with you has kind of been on hold, just like many of you have had to press the pause button on different things in your life over the past year because of COVID, and as we've been figuring out what the future looks like, and honestly, in some ways, just trying to figure out what the present looks like. But I've still felt this momentum building. I felt like we're just about to hit, like we're just about to take off, and man, I'm really excited about what the next year and a half are gonna look like as we move toward this, and that is our vision for being a multi-site church. It's our vision for being one church meeting in multiple locations. It's the same mission, it's the same vision, it's the same values, it's all the same stuff, it's just different zip codes, right? Different locations. We said a year and a half ago, when we first cast this vision, that we felt like something God was leading us toward, and something he had put in front of our church, was to have a second location somewhere else because it gives us more opportunities than ever before to reach people with the good news that Jesus is for them. And I want you to do something really quickly before I get into some specifics. All right, I just want to stop for a second. I want you to do this. I want you to look around. Now, I know there are a lot of seats in this room right now that are empty because we have a whole lot of people watching from home. I know we have a whole lot of you who are sitting in your living room right now or somewhere else in your house and you're watching online. And I just want to say we're so glad that you are. We're so glad that you're with us and that you're staying connected. And so I realize that some of the seats in the room that are empty this morning are empty because normally they would be filled by somebody who's still here. They're just with us from their house. But there's another seat in this room that belongs to somebody who you know who doesn't know Jesus. This is what Ryan was talking about a minute ago. It's a friend, it's a family member, it's a coworker, it's a neighbor, it's somebody that you know who doesn't know Jesus. They don't have that hope in their life, and they need it. And we believe that our multi-site strategy gives us more opportunities than ever before to reach those people, the people that Ryan was just talking to you about. We believe our multi-site strategy gives us more opportunities than ever before to reach those people. And I want to share with you for just a few minutes why we think multi-site is such a big win for our church, why this is such a big deal. So here's the first thing. Mark chapter 16, verse 15, Jesus says this. He says, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." And if I could just paraphrase those words for you really quickly, it just says this, really simple. He says, stop at nothing to make sure that you tell everybody who will listen who I am and what I want to do for them. Tell them about the hope that I have for them. Tell them about the grace that I have for them. He says, stop at nothing, go tell everybody, don't let anything get in your way. And we've said for years, that's exactly the kind of church we want to be. We want to be a church that will stop at nothing short of sin to reach people who are far from Jesus and tell them about him. That's why we're here. And so one reason multi-site is such a big deal for us is it keeps us focused on being a Great Commission church. It keeps us focused on that calling, that 1201, that reaching people who are far from Jesus. It keeps us focused on that. Another thing that we've said for years, is one of my favorite things Ryan's ever said from this platform, and we've echoed this time and time again over the past few years, is this. I'll never forget this. He said, we are a church that is largely made up of people who aren't here yet. And we still believe that's true. There are thousands and thousands of people in our city who need Jesus. And we still believe that we're a church that is largely made up of people who aren't here yet. So multi-site's a big deal because it keeps us focused on reaching those people in different ways, in new ways, in innovative ways, in unique ways. We're gonna do everything we can to reach out to those people. Another reason it's a big win is because it keeps us focused on having a culture of multiplication and growth. Healthy things grow, you know that's true. If you missed middle school biology, that's how it works. If something's healthy, it grows, right? And we've grown a whole lot over the past few years. Again, we think there's a lot more growth yet to come, but we want to keep things healthy. We want to keep things growing. And to do that, we know we have to have a culture of multiplication. Again, to go back to like your middle school biology class, it's like cell division. Cells divide and then they grow, and then they divide and they grow. And that's what we want to do. We want to have a culture of multiplication so that we can continue to grow and continue to be healthy. And I know one of the things that comes up in that conversation about multi-site is this. Maybe this is you. You'll have some people who will say, isn't it better if we're like all together? Why would we want to be in different locations? Isn't it better if we're all in the same place? And I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I believe that's true. I think many of us have felt that over the past year more than ever before as we've been spread out all over the place doing church from home or wherever you might have been while we were shut down. I think we all discovered we need this a little more than we probably thought we did. And I'm not taking away from that, right? There is something that's just special about being in the room. There's something that's special about being together, encouraging each other, seeing each other, saying hello to each other, being in a room as we're worshiping together. And some of you are watching from home right now because you can't be here. You know that because you're longing for that too. And we can't wait until we're able to gather more of us together in the same place at the same time. I want you to know that being a multi-site church does not take away from that. If you look at the book of Acts chapter 2, there's a verse in there, verse 41, that says that they added more than 3,000 people. Peter gets up and he starts preaching. The disciples are preaching. They're telling people about Jesus. They added more than 3,000 people to the church in one day. Now, there wasn't a building, there wasn't a campus, there wasn't a meeting location that was available to the church in that day and age that could have handled a crowd that size. They couldn't be together. So what did they do? They met in homes. They met in wherever they could find a place to gather a few of them together. That's where they met. That's where they did church. And so here's the principle that I want to pull from that. It's not so important where we meet as it just is the fact that we're meeting, right? And so, yeah, for some of you that are like, man, wouldn't it be better if we were just all in the same place at the same time? Doesn't multi-site take away from that? It really doesn't. And maybe that's a good segue to this. The third reason I think multi-site church is a big win for our church is this. It removes logistical barriers to reaching more people. Let me tell you what I mean. When we decided that, yeah, we do feel like God is calling us toward this. When we had prayed over it, we talked about it, we debated it, and when we said, yeah, we believe God's calling us to have multiple locations, obviously the next thing is, okay, well, what's it going to look like? Where's it going to go, right? And so what we did is we took a map, and we literally started putting pins in the map. We started saying, all right, let's talk about people who volunteer. Where are they? And we started pinning on a map where you live. What about people whose kids are in kids ministry? Where are they? And so we put pins in a map. What about people who are in groups, life groups and classes? We started putting pins in a map. What about people who are faithful givers? Where are they? We put pins on a map. What about people who invite their friends? Where are they at? We started putting pins on a map. And so once we had taken every bit of data we had available, everything we knew, and we put it on this map, we said, all right, where's a group of people, where's a cluster of those people who are driving a long way to get here? That's where we're going to put a campus. And the reason for that strategy is this. Some of you know this is true. If you invite a friend to come to church with you and they're like, yeah, I'd love to. Where is it? And you're like, it's 45 minutes away. That's a hard ask, isn't it? That's a hard invite. And so the idea of multi-site church is by putting campuses and locations closer to where the people that you want to invite to come to church with you live, there is an opportunity for them to be a part of this community closer to home, and it's a much easier ask. It removes that logistical barrier. One other barrier that it removes is this. Again, obviously right now there are a lot of open spaces, a lot of open seats in this room. There's a lot more space in the lobby, but some of you who were around before COVID know that hasn't always been the case, and we really do believe it's not going to be long until that's not the case anymore. And we literally just want to have room for people to come and meet Jesus and grow in their faith and build good relationships. We just want to provide space for that. And so being a multi-site church provides literal physical space for people to do that. It removes logistical hurdles. And then I would just say this, the fourth reason I think this is such a big win for our church, really simply is it helps us leverage this unique positioning that we have as a church. I want to be really clear. There are great churches all across Stark County. We're one of them, but we're not the only one. There are great churches all across this county. And this is not in an effort to compete with them, but I do believe there are some ways that we're uniquely positioned to reach some people that other churches aren't, just like some of them are uniquely positioned to reach some people that we're not. But let me share with you why I think that's true. If you go back about 10 or 12 years, you can kind of see as church attendance started to pretty significantly decline. And there are a lot of reasons for that you can read about. Some of it has to do with the availability of watching church online, so you don't have to show up anymore. And man, if you do that, I think you're missing out on some good stuff, but you can do that if you want. There's other factors, but here's the deal. Over the past number of years, as we've watched church attendance decline, First Christian's grown by 24%. And if you know anything about church growth, that is off the charts growth. Those are huge numbers. In fact, it wasn't too many years ago that we were rated as the 5th fastest growing Christian church in the entire country. So we're beating the statistics, we're beating the trends. And the reason that I think that's so powerful and so significant isn't because it looks good on paper. It's not because we were in some magazine. It's not because it sounds good to say it. It's because that tells me people are coming here and they're meeting Jesus. And that's what it's all about. We're beating the trends. Let me tell you this. In the same number of years, 610 people have given their lives to Jesus. We've baptized 610 people here at First Christian Church. That's a big deal. And so that tells me we're uniquely positioned to offer something that there are people in our community, they want it and they need it. How about this? More than 100 families on a regular basis are connected to our disability ministry and our day services program. The statistics will tell you that 1 in 5 families, but it's probably more than that, but at least 1 in 5 families are touched by disability in our county. And so what that tells me is it's great that 100 families or more are connected, but there are thousands more that need a disability ministry at a church to love their family and to care for them. How about this? There are hundreds and hundreds of families, many of you in the room, that are connected to our family ministry, our kids ministry, our student ministry, disability, or we have an incredible preschool. Some of you don't even know that, but you got a kid who should be going here. We have a great preschool. You're connected to that, but there are thousands more families in our community who need a church who will love their family, right? Or how about this one? I love this statistic. Last year in 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, 903 families were served by our Common Goods Clothes Ministry. 903 families. That's 2,451 people that received clothes through Common Goods. Or how about this one? 541 families were given groceries by our food ministry. That's more than 1,000 kids, guys, who got food because of you. And the need is greater than ever. And so by having multiple locations, we are able to serve people in all of those ways that I just listed for you and even more. It helps us take advantage of how we are uniquely put together and positioned to make a difference in our community. And here's the deal. We have always believed, and we will always believe, that we're a church who is in our community for our community. We are here to make a difference. I want us to be the kind of church, Ryan wants us to be the kind of church, our elders want us to be the kind of church, and honestly, you want us to be the kind of church that if anything ever happened and we closed our doors, the community would be heartbroken because we make it a better place to live. That's the kind of people that we're called to be. That's what followers of Jesus are called to do, and we want to continue to do that. So listen, I could keep going, but I want you to know that's our commitment, and I realize you probably have a lot of questions about how this is going to look, and we don't have a lot of time to get neck deep in the function of what the new campus is going to look like today. We've already talked about that in the past. Some of that information is available for you online. I'll give you that link in a second. I want to hit on just a couple of quick things because I know these are probably big questions that you're asking. And the first one is this. It's just, when is this campus going to launch? I want to tell you that originally we looked at September of this year. That was our goal. And then obviously COVID hit and we lost most of last year in terms of productivity and progress just because we were trying to rethink ways to do what we were already doing. And so we felt like it's probably wisest to push that launch timeline out for 1 year. And so rather than launching in September of this year, we're going to launch in September of next year. And that gives us all the time we need, just like we said in the beginning, to really walk this out with a high degree of wisdom and excellence at every stop. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll launch in September of next year. As far as a campus pastor, maybe we'll hire from within and maybe an external hire. We're working through that, but we are back into the process of searching for and hopefully ultimately hiring a campus pastor within the next few months. It's another thing we put on hold last year because it just didn't make sense to hire in the middle of COVID when so much was uncertain. But we're back into the process of looking for that person, and assuming it is somebody from the outside, our goal is to have the campus pastor hired and here at FCC by September of this year so that they'll get to spend a whole year with us before we launch to learn all about who we are, kind of soak in our DNA and build relationships and build a core team and launch that campus well. As far as financial support goes, I'll just kind of update you on this and then we'll wrap up and I'll hand it back to Ryan. But here's the deal. Our goal for launching this campus financially, our goal has not changed. We said in the beginning we were hoping to have $750,000 to launch this campus, and that's a big number, okay? So let me break it down for you as a refresher, or maybe you've never heard this before. But here's how that breaks down. $750,000, in that number, about $350 goes towards startup costs. That's literally just buying the stuff we need to launch. So assuming we're in a portable location, that's trailers to store stuff, it's storage space, it's furniture for lobby spaces, it's resources for kids' classrooms, it's small group materials, it's you name it. If it takes it to run a church campus, that $350,000 is what it's gonna take to buy all that stuff. It's stuff for doing worship and tech and music gear and all that kind of stuff. It's all covered by that. The other $400,000 is equally important. We're hoping to raise that money because what that will do is cover operations for that campus for the whole first year. And that's a big deal because most church plants or campuses that fail because they weren't financially viable. They couldn't self-sustain, they didn't make it. And we want to take all of that financial pressure off of that campus for the whole first year. That's our hope, so that that cloud isn't hanging over that campus as they're getting going and just really needing to focus on building relationships in the community, reaching people, and just starting to make things happen. So our goal is $750,000. Now, we've had about 54% of that pledged. And out of that $750,000, about 31%, just under a third of that has already been received in donations, which is incredible. And guys, I want to tell you, for those of you who've been giving toward that campus, the gifts that you've given are making a difference. There will be people who are going to meet Jesus and are going to ultimately be in heaven one day because you sacrificially gave. And that's, I can't tell you how much that means and what a difference that makes. We've got a long way to go. And so, Here's what I'll offer to you this morning. 2020 was a really hard year. And we know that some of you, you're hearing me say this and you're like, man, I have nothing to give. And we want you to know that is okay. I don't want you to feel pressure based on what we're saying here. But I also know some of us are able to. And so for those of you who are already giving, pledging, I just want to say thank you. If you're hearing me say this and you're like, you know what, we're another year out, I can just carry my pledge on through, that would be great. Maybe you're hearing this and you're saying, I'll keep my pledge right where it's at. That's great. Maybe you're hearing this and you're saying, I can give a little more than I've already pledged. That's great. If you've never pledged to the new campus before and you want to do that, that's great. And again, if you're hearing me say this and you're like, man, I just can't do it, that's okay. That's okay. Just continue to do what you can do. But I just want to say thanks more than anything. And I want you to know how much that means and how much we appreciate your generosity and, again, your sacrificial giving. And here's what it all comes down to. I just want to say this. When you're thinking about how you can get involved, maybe it's that you want to give. Maybe it's this. Maybe you want to say, I'll commit to that core team. And that'll be the campus I'll serve at, and I'll lead at, and I'll give at, and I'll attend. And that's going to be my campus. And I'm just going to help make it happen. We're going to need a lot of people to do that. Or maybe it's this, and I would say this is the most important thing you can do. More than giving, more than attending or serving, the most important thing you can do, and I would ask every one of you to do this, is just pray. Just pray. And maybe you think it sounds kind of funny or cliche for me to say that's more important than giving financially toward the campus, but I believe it's true. We just believe this is a vision that God has put before our church, and if we're chasing after that, he's going to resource it. But it's going to take all of us praying together. Pray for the staff who will serve on that campus. Pray for the resources. Pray for the people in that community where the campus will be that are going to be reached, that they'll be open to hearing about Jesus. Let's just cover this thing in prayer. And so I'll just tell you this. Guys, I am so excited for what's going to happen this year, for what God is going to do through our church this year at this location and preparing us to be in another location. I hope you're excited too, because we all know 2020 was tough. 2021 is going to be a much better year, I really do believe. And so thank you so much for staying committed with us. Thanks for all you've continued to do over the past year. And we believe that the best is yet to come. Our best days are still ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I echo that as well. Just thank you for your continued prayers and just your continued generosity towards the new campus if you pledged towards that. And I want to say this too, just one more thing I was thinking about as you were talking, Jimmy, is how does that all tie together, right? 1201, multi-site. Well, here's probably the biggest thing that when I read this and we were doing reading all sorts of books and looking at all sorts of data, new campuses, new churches are 3 to 5 times more effective in reaching unchurched people than established churches. Don't ask me why that is, but they just are. Maybe it's the fact that they're fresh, they're new, it's exciting. And again, we just said, why would we not do that then? If our heart is to reach as many people as we can, why would we not step into something like that? And so I want to say this too. I also know this. I know that there's so many people that are watching online, right? And there's so many people that as we've existed in this new world that we do, maybe it became easy to kind of like click over and look at other churches. And here's what I know. I know this, that there are better preachers than me. I know that there are maybe churches with flashier production or whatever. But here's what I sort of had this revelation. You know what I think people are looking for now, maybe more than ever? It's just community. It's community. They're looking for family. People are looking for a place to belong. And so again, when we started like praying through this and thinking through this, I know people can just go and click on and watch whoever they want to watch online, and that can be a thing. But I think there's this longing for a lot of folks like, man, I need to go and be a part of something. I need to go and be seen. I need to go and be known by someone. And so for us, as we go and we work to plant these new campuses and work to have touch in different communities, we want to create a place of belonging for people. That's our heart. And so again, I just want to thank you for being a part of that. I want to thank you for your heart, for FCC, and for Jesus. And Jesus is the most important. But I just want to thank you for having a heart for the one, whoever that person is in your life. So I want to close out in prayer, close this part out. We're gonna sing a little bit and kind of get out of here today. But let me pray. God, we thank you for this time. We thank you for your love. We thank you for the ways that you are working in this season and the next. God, I know that at this point it's just kind of exhausting to talk about how hard 2020 was, and we probably need to stop doing that. We know it's been a lot of change. We're tired of talking about that too. But you don't change, and your vision for our church has not changed. And so we press in. We continue on. God, we love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray.